I love seeing these, most important player in each team's spring training. 'Cause all the teams now are fully invested in spring training, right? The pitchers and catchers reported last week. Now all the players are there in their various camps in Arizona or Florida. So they're all fully engaged right now in spring training. So I love these articles that say who is the most important in each team's camp.
Which is interesting because I feel like this has historically been like a cowboy, or not a cowboy, it's just like an NFL question more. Like, oh, your training camp coming up, who's your bubble player, who's your this and that. I feel like this has been less relevant to baseball as like a who's the singular player type of discussion heading into a spring training.
Right, because there's never a singular player in baseball that matters.
But I thought this article you sent over, I thought this was pretty good.
Are you trying to log into ESPN?
I'm logging
Plus?
into my ESPN now, but I read it yesterday. So.
All right, so they went through every team, and some teams, a lot of them had, guys that have never played before.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them had guys that were, recent signings, or guys that were coming off bad years, like Alek Manoah,
Carlos Rodon.
Carlos Rodon coming off a subpar year when they were expecting bigger things from them. So you get to the Texas Rangers, World Series champion Texas Rangers, and their player is Wyatt Langford. The number 4 prospect in our top 100. He could hit his way to an outfield/DH rotation alongside Adolis, Leote, and Evan Carter with a hot spring despite just 44 games in the minors. He demolished minor league pitching. Making the opening day roster would be an aggressive promotion. He played just 17 games above high A. That's amazing. When you're being compared to Austin Riley and Pete Alonso as a hitter, that doesn't sound like a stretch. Okay.
Man, this is, and it's wild. Like, I mean, I remembered thinking back and going like, yeah, he was just raking really quick. He was in, rookie ball, and then it was A, and then it was double A. And I was like, but I couldn't remember the exact specifics of what the numbers looked like. It is incredible what he did. Rookie ball, his OPS was 1275. A ball, it is. A ball, 1097. Double A, 1280. Triple A, 1065. Cumulatively, between those 3 levels, Chop, he hits 360 with a 480 on base percentage, 677 slugging, 36 walks to 34 strikeouts, had 10 home runs, 17 doubles, 2 triples, and stole 12 bases. Like, this guy has the potential to be an absolute machine on offense. The comparison we heard from a lot of people who just said, hey, like, look, we know it's rarefied air to throw this name out here, but the guy that it's worth mentioning he might be pretty similar to was Mike Trout. And boy, if you can get, 80% of Mike Trout, aren't you pretty thrilled with that pick, Chop?
Yeah. 80% of Mike Trout. 80% of Mike Trout's a Hall of Famer.
And so, I mean, like, this is one of these situations where
80% of Mike Trout is current Mike Trout.
Yeah, exactly. This is Leo. Here's the thing. I think fans are going to have, or fans have had, relatively speaking, a decent amount of patience with Leote Taveras and his growth. I think. I mean, there have been times where people have been frustrated, but I think overall, people have been pretty patient with his development and some of the, ups and downs that he's had. I think people have been interested in seeing, what it's going to look like when Foscue comes up eventually. Like, because he was a top pick and he's been a top, but man, I don't think there's going to be a lot of patience for Foscue or Taveras if they're potentially standing in the way of Wyatt Langford getting at bats, because he has just created such a buzz about him that I can't even remember the last time this much buzz existed about a Rangers prospect. Who would it have been? Like, I mean, Jerkson Profar was the number 1 prospect in baseball, but it wasn't even this level of buzz, I don't feel like. Like Feliz, maybe? You might even have to, no joke, you might have to go back to Ruben Mateo for one that people would get this excited about. And that was 25 years ago.
God. They get him in the, was Ruben Mateo
Ruben Mateo, they signed him out of the Dominican Republic.
Okay, I was thinking of somebody else.
He had a.
I was thinking of the guy they took over.
That was the guy they refused to give up in like a trade for Randy Johnson and Roger Clemens.
Okay,
and
I was thinking of who they got in the A-Rod trade, where they chose this guy over Robinson Cano.
They got Joaquin Arias.
Joaquin Arias. Okay,
yeah. But
this is the amazing thing about Wyatt Langford. So on Baseball Reference, they do the age differential. Have you seen this?
Mm-mm.
All right. So it basically shows your age versus the weighted age of players in that league.
Okay.
All right. So Wyatt Langford, when he got to rookie ball, all right, he was older than the average player in that league.
Yeah, because he played at Florida for a few years.
Yeah.
He's 22.
Right. So his weighted age difference was -5, which doesn't make any sense because at 21, he's not playing against 16-year-olds. There's 16-year-olds in the league. So I don't know how they do this.
Yeah.
But in the same, it's basically from June to August, he went from -5.5 on the age weighted scale to +1, which means by the end of his minor league tenure, he was younger than the average AAA-er.
Insanity.
And he was like, according to this, they said 5. I have no idea how they calculate this, but his number was -5 for the average rookie league player, which means he was like so much older than these guys. Well, now he's younger, and now he's like ahead of the curve. He was behind the curve at Florida. I mean, he didn't get to Florida until he was 19.
Right. He was
old. He was older.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Which is kind of like you want the cheat code. Young parents out there of young kids, hold your kid back in school. Make him be an 18, 19-year-old senior.
Stop that. No one would do that.
No, they
no
wouldn't.
Chance somebody would do that.
Nobody would do that in high school football in Texas. That was a former Cowboy. Nobody would do that.
Here, when you look at over the last 30 games that Wyatt Langford played, we already just read off how insane the numbers were, like at each level and everything like that. But if you just collectively take it over the last 30 games, Chop, we're talking about he hit 7 home runs. His batting average was .394. This guy was hitting almost 400 against, and he was doing the majority of that at double and triple A. He was doing this against some future major leaguers, or in some cases, like guys who maybe have been to the major leagues and come back down. So I'm incredibly excited for him. I don't want to rush it or anything else, but look, there also reaches a point where it's like, what is he getting in terms of being challenged at the other levels? If he is out of challenges at AAA, if he's done everything he can in the minor league system, just go ahead and put it out there for him. Do what you did with Evan Carter. Just make the decision and say, hey, it's time. Like, he's clearly shown he's learned everything he can here. Let's approach it that way. And let's embrace that era if that's the case.
Yep, people saying Darvish the hype, Profar.
Darvish was big. I just don't think of Darvish as a prospect, really.
I don't either. I agree. Shohei's not a prospect.
Profar I definitely do, and Profar was number 1. I just don't remember it being this kind of buzz.
It was big. I remember that
it was big. It was definitely
his
big.
first game. Then he hit a home run his first at bat.
Hit a home run.
Just we were like, oh my god. Profar, Blake Bevan. He had a.
Smoke was pretty big. Justin Smoke was a pretty big prospect.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, quick update on Josh Jung.
Josh Jung, yes, he has a calf issue. He will be out for 2 to 3 weeks, it sounds like, which you and I were talking about this earlier. I think that this isn't as concerning as if it was, for instance, Justin Foscue or Leody Taveras. 2 guys that we're talking about they need to have their consistency right. You don't want them to be behind. Even Evan Carter. Right, like Evan Carter, a guy who played really well at the end of the season, got meaningful at bats in big time situations, performed well. But you don't, now that he's entering the fray and everything like that, you don't want him to get behind or thrown off. You'd like him to find that rhythm. Josh Jung, I don't think it's nearly as critical that he gets these 3 weeks as it would be for maybe some of these other younger players. In the past, in previous years, where there's been frustration about his health and his availability, absolutely, because you wouldn't want that disrupting him getting into that rhythm. But I think given what you got from him last year and the experience that he gained, let's just take things on a very precautionary side, handle it the right way, don't push it, and, hey, we'll see you in 3 weeks. So Josh Jung joins Corey Seager as guys who are going to miss significant time on, the position player side for this spring training.
What do you have on Evan Carter?
So Evan Carter, there was a good piece up by Kennedy Landry over at TexasRangers.com. just about Evan Carter and his growth and stuff like that. And he says the big difference for him this year so far is he thinks it's relationships. That having been up last year, he kind of got there and it's like, okay, maybe he knows a handful of people, but he's not really in with the big league club. But after going through that playoff run and everything else and being a big star, specifically of the Tampa and the Houston series, is you look at you look at what he did there and the bond that he developed and the trust he developed with guys. He said, I think the difference this year is that I have a relationship with a lot of the people here. It's a little bit more comfortable than just walking in last year and looking around like, oh my gosh, look at all these big leaguers. Now it's like they're my buddies, I guess. So it's definitely a better feeling. He says you get called up and the team has somebody like Robbie Grossman, who's an unbelievable hitter against lefties. It was just mentally one of those things like, how do I take this? Talking about like the approach of not going to play against lefties. Everybody around me is saying I can't do that. So how do I respond to this? For me, in my mind, I know I can do it. So he's pushing himself, saying he wants to be a full-time player, doesn't want to be sad against lefties. It's funny. He mentions the issue there with or talking about how he's getting there and just kind of in awe of the big leaguers. They asked him what was his welcome to the big league moment. And he said, probably Verlander's fastball. Then he paused and he went, or Glasnow's fastball.
Yeah.
And then he paused.
By the way,
he went, or his slider.
I mean, we've all forgotten that Glasnow is signed as well with the Dodgers.
But yeah, I mean, it's just they're spending like crazy. They're building their dream team.
He is like, he's the afterthought of that team.
Yeah. I mean, because everybody's just talking about everything else that they've added.
Holy cow.
But he said that he named all these different pitches and he goes, there were several. He said, definitely some guys had pitches. And I was like, holy smokes. He uses the Jared Sandler.
Holy smokes.
He said, holy smokes. What was that? He said there were definitely a lot of guys where you kind of have to take a step back and calm down a little bit facing a Hall of Famer. But it is what it is. He's even. He's steady. That Evan Carter.
I think I'm going to drop a holy smokes on Thursday.
Oh, you should.
Holy smokes!
When you're calling your Tarleton State Grand Canyon University,
Canyon, baby.
Which I will be there in Stephenville at this game to cheer on RJ Choppy. Any other Tolos, you guys should go out there. Tolo J. Ochoa, he's going to go out there. Jim J. The morning gym workout J.
From now on.
Did you want a seat at the table?
Can I like right at the table? I want to be like in the crowd. I want to be there cheering. I don't want to distract you. But yeah, like sure.
We'll see what we get.